Hi, you guys, welcome back. This is lesson 69 in the algebra book. We are talking about factoring trinomials today, and this is super duper important. If you do not at any point understand what is going on in this video, you have to speak up because a lot of what we do with quadratics and then a bunch of stuff that you do in Algebra 2 with polynomials all comes back to factoring. Okay, so there are a bunch of things that I want you to take away from Algebra 1. This is definitely one of them. This is going to help you in Algebra 2. First things first, let's do a quick refresh. If I have x plus 4, x minus 6, the way that I would multiply this out would be to FOIL, or the box method. FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. So first would be this times this, which gives me x squared. Outside would be x times negative 6, which would give me negative 6x. Inside would be 4 times x, which gives me positive 4x, so I used a plus. Last would give me 4 times negative 6, which would give me negative 24. Combine these guys here, and we end up with x squared minus 2x minus 24. What this lesson is going to be about is taking this here and reversing it and factoring it into this right here. Now, the best way to do this, I'm going to show you, there's a bunch of different methods of doing this, but the way that I have always found is you have to know your signs. So we're going to talk about that right here. This guy, you always look at the last sign. Step 1, look at last sign. Oh my goodness, you guys, I can't even do that. If negative, different signs. If positive, same signs. Look to the front. So what do I mean by that? All right, we're going to do a bunch of practice on these because I want you to be able to see how those all work. So take a look at this example that I have right here. The very first thing that you want to do is we're going to draw out our bubbles and we're going to do our first, which is x and x. So same with this guy, we'll do x and x. Okay, now our next step is to find our signs. Look at the last sign. That's this sign right here. If it's negative, bam, you are in luck because that means these are positive, negative, different signs. If negative, different signs. Now, if it is a positive, that means that the signs are going to be the same, either positive, positive, or negative, negative. You don't know until you look at this sign right here. So we know these ones are going to be negative, negative. Okay? Now, our next step is to list out all of our factors of this last number here. So for example, I'll do that right over here. We know that we have 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. Those are all of our factors of 36. Now, our signs are positive, negative, positive, negative. I need a positive and a negative that gives me negative 16, negative 16. Well, if I take a look at this, I have positive, if I do negative 18 and positive 2, so negative 18 and positive 2, that would give me negative 16. Let's test this out. Test it out, and we test it out by foiling it, and if we get the same thing that we started with, we have done this correctly. So foiling, first gives me x squared. Outside gives me negative 18x. Inside gives me 2x. Last gives me negative 36. Negative 18x, positive 2 gives me x squared minus 16x minus 36. Perfect. That's what we started with over here. The correct signs and everything, so we are good. So that would be the factored version of that. Let's come over here. Let's list out all our factors of 5. 1 times 5, that one's an easy one. We know the signs are different, so I need a negative and a negative that gives me negative 6. That would be negative 1, negative 5. Negative 1, negative 5. And if we were to test that out, we would get the right answer. So let's look at some of these examples that are in the book. All right. The first one, the very first step is you draw your bubbles and we do x, x. This is negative. If negative, different signs. Let's do this for this next one. If negative, different signs. So we can put our different signs in here. Now let's list out all our factors, and factors meaning things that multiply together to give us 15. We get 1 times 15, 3 times 5. We need a positive and a negative, so I'll put these over here. That gives me negative 14. Well, if I have negative 15 when added together, negative 15 and positive 1, negative 15 and positive 1. Let's test this out. First, x squared. Outside, minus 15x. Inside, plus x. Last, minus 15. So remember, there's a 1 in front of that x there. So we get x squared, negative 15x plus 1x gives me negative 14x minus 15. Does that look the way that it did when we started? Absolutely. So this is our correct answer. Let's try this next one. Okay, we've already determined that the signs are different. Factors of 10. We have 1 times 10, 2 times 5. And I suggest when you're doing your factors going in order like that, because I think that's easier. We know that the signs are going to be different, so we need a positive and a negative that gives us positive 3. Well, what about positive 5 and negative 2? And negative 2. So, check. Okay, we're going to check this guy over here. We're going to do x plus 5, x minus 2. First, x squared, outside, minus 2x, inside, 5x, last, minus 10. So x squared plus 3x minus 10, does that look like it did when we started? Absolutely, we have done this correctly. Now, if you get the wrong sign, like let's say you do this and you get negative 3, it just means you have to flip your signs around. So you got to cross it out and try again. Okay, sometimes you'll see trinomials, and remember a trinomial is 3 chunks, right? Chunks are broken up by addition, subtraction. Sometimes you'll see them out of order like this. You have to put them in what's called standard form. Standard form means the chunk with the highest variable or the highest exponent goes first, and then it goes in descending order. So in this case, we would want x squared, and then we want this chunk, don't lose the sign, so minus 5x plus 6. Now that is in standard form. So we are going to draw our bubbles. X, we look at the last sign. Oh, it's positive. If positive, it means they're going to be the same signs. Look to the front. So if it's positive, so these are going to be either positive, positive, negative, negative. And in this case, since there's a negative here, they're both going to be negative. Okay. Factors of 6, we got 1 times 6, 2 times 3. I need a negative and a negative that add up to negative 5. Negative 2, negative 3. Since you're new to this, always make sure you check your work. I won't do it on this video since you know how to FOIL now, but that way we can make sure. All right, let's take a look at this guy. X squared, first things first, let's put it in standard form because now we have to move that plus 6x plus 5. Let's do our bubbles. X, look at the last sign. If it's positive, that means that the signs are going to be the same. Is it negative, negative, or positive, positive? We got to look here. Positive, positive. Positive, positive. Factors of 5 are going to be 1 times 5, and that's it. So I need a positive, positive that gives me 6. I get positive 1, positive 5. All right, so guys, here are your practice problems. Go ahead and do those, and then come on back. All right, you guys, I added some 3 extra practice problems that aren't in the book, but I think that this is so important. We really need to practice this. If you're watching this video and you do those 3 extra problems that are right here, come see me in class. Show me so that I know that you watched the video and I know that you've done these practice problems. Okay, so first step, we're gonna do our bubbles. Okay, and then we'll do our first, which is XX, XX, XX. All right, our very first thing is we always look at the last sign. If it's negative, that tells us different signs. If it's negative, that tells us different signs. Negative tells us different signs, so these are all negative. Now we look here, 42. Fortunately, this is a 42 too, so we'll use those. Let's list all our factors of 42. We have times 21, and then 3 times, let me make sure I got this. I would, of course, make a mistake as I'm doing this. 14, I was about to say 13, so I'm glad I did. Okay, so 3 times 14. 4 does not go into it, 5 does not, 6 times 7, right? 6 times 7 gives us 42. So those are all of our factors of 42. Now I need a -1. Remember, there's a 1 there. So I need a positive and a negative that gives me a -1. Well, how about a -7 and a +6? -7, +6. Good. 42, now I need a +1. Well, how about +7 and -6? You see the big difference there? You can see the difference between this negative and this positive. It's really important that you make sure you are using these correct signs. Okay, so 16. I have 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 3, no, but 4 times 4. Now, I need a positive and a negative, that gives me -6. Well, how about -8 and +2? -8, +2. Guys, and make sure you're checking these as you're new. Okay, let's try all these guys. X, 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 X. Okay, we're gonna look at the last sign. Remember, if it's negative, or if it's a positive, that tells us same signs. Look here, negative, negative. Same sign, negative, negative. Same, oh, no, this is different signs. Positive, negative. All right, 60. Oh, this is gonna be a beast. 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times, you'd think I'd know this by now because I've done it a dozen times, but you never know. 4 times 15, 5 times 12, let's see, oh, and then 6 times 10, right? Not 7, not 8, not 9, and 10 is already on the board. So those are all of our factors. Now, I need a negative and a negative. That gives me -23. So I look at these guys and I see, oh, nope. How about that one right there? -20, -3. All right, so for these guys here, we have 1 times 8, 2 times 4. I need a negative and a negative that gives me -9. Well, -8, -1. All right, for this last one, we have 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, 5, and that's it. So we need a positive and a negative that gives us +7. Well, how about we do +9 and -2? Awesome. All right, guys, if you have any questions about factoring trinomials, you need to let me know because these are super duper important and it's easy to mess them up. So great work, and I will see you soon.